Municipal Clerk to let us know when we are streaming. Afternoon, everyone. I call to order this meeting of the Committee of the Whole for Tuesday, November 18th, 2025. And I'll first look to Dr. Cottle for the Land Acknowledgement.
Thank you, Mayor Krausert. Town of Canmore staff, operations, work, and network depend on traditional Indigenous territories to provide us physical space, sustenance, safety, and community to work, live, and play in. Our physical work is in the heart of Treaty 7 territory of southern Alberta. This land is home to the Blackfoot Confederacy, consisting of the Siksika, Kainai, and Piikani First Nations, the Tsuut'ina First Nation, and our most adjacent Indigenous neighbors, the Stoney Nakoda, comprised of the Bearspaw, Goodstoney, and Chiniki First Nations, and the Rocky View Métis District 4 within the Battle River Territory. I acknowledge that our ability to live and work and play on these lands today is a direct benefit of policies of expulsion and assimilation of Indigenous peoples during the time of settlement and confederation and since. The harms of these policies are many and are still being felt in Indigenous communities today. I want to express my sincere gratitude toward the Indigenous people who have and will continue to steward these lands. I commit to amplifying the voices of Indigenous people and working against the everyday forces of white supremacy and colonialism present in our work. The town of Canmore is actively engaging in training and education related to reconciliation and decolonization. We aim to listen, learn, and establish meaningful relationships with our Indigenous colleagues, engage in courageous conversations, and take actions that advance reconciliation. Our work at the town of Canmore is long-term and multi-generational in nature, and we recognize that it will be a continuous and intentional process to build strong relationships with our Indigenous colleagues and connect with the land. Thank you.
Thank you. So now, approval of the agenda. I move that we approve the agenda for November 18th, 2025. Committee of the Whole meeting is circulated. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Okay, we have the opportunity for a couple of delegations today. The first one's from the Homelessness Society of the Bow Valley, providing their annual update. And
Afternoon, Mayor Krausert, Council. It's my pleasure to introduce Jessica Cleric, the Executive Director of the Homelessness Society of the Bow Valley. I have the pleasure of working with Jessica on anything from the community food cupboard to the nonprofit leadership table, and so I know that the work that they do is vast and the impact on our community is amazing. So I will hand it over to Jessica to provide you with an annual update.
thanks, Ms. Gilchrist, and welcome. Thank you for being here today. We look forward to receiving the update.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, everyone, and good afternoon, Mayor Krausert and councillors. I'm just going to try to get set up for my slideshow. Just a moment.
Do you need my help with my bad tech skills?
I'm not sure that is my screen, so I'm going to...
Just like start the presentation, it should kick off the screen.
Yeah? Okay, perfect. I did start it.
Maybe the Mac is a little different.
Yeah, maybe.
I guess I'll leave you with Ben's mad tech
Sure,
skills.
that sounds great. Thank
Might
you.
do the
Yeah.
old school drag and drop way.
Ah,
Yeah.
I see. Perfect.
Less
Thank you so
fancy.
much.
All good.
Great.
Okay, and then
I think if we just hit slideshow.
thank you.
Ah, great. Amazing.
Thank you, Mr. Stiver, and Ms. Clerk, whenever you're ready, the microphone is yours.
Wonderful. Okay. Yeah, so happy to be here to just give a little bit of an annual update about HSBV, what we've been up to, and the impacts that we've made in the community. So just As a reminder for folks who may be new to HSBV, our mission is to foster a Bow Valley community where everyone has access to safe, warm shelter and programs that support their needs. Our vision is that everyone in the Bow Valley has a safe place to sleep. And we play two core roles within the community. Our first role really being that program delivery, so offering an emergency winter shelter and outreach program for folks who are facing housing insecurity in the Valley. And we also work towards a role of awareness and advocacy. So raising community awareness about housing insecurity locally and the impacts within the community. So a little bit more about our programming. We run our two core programs. Our outreach program is year-round. We like to say that currently the outreach program is reactive as opposed to proactive. So folks have to reach out to us for support rather than us seeking to support others. We run the outreach program year-round, mostly through phone and email interaction, though this summer we did implement some in-person outreach programming in conjunction with the community food cupboard pilot, which I'll get to shortly. And then we do operate our emergency winter shelter program each winter season, and it is a low barrier program with a focus on safety and inclusion. Yeah, so a little more on the emergency winter shelter program, low barrier. So what this means is we try to intentionally reduce the obstacles for folks to access essential supports. For example, we don't require ID for folks when they come to use the shelter space. The goal really being providing a warm, secure, safe shelter space, meeting everyone where they're at, whoever walks through the door, trying to meet them where they're at and offer supports that they need. So in the shelter program, it is currently located at Scout Hall. We run the program over the winter months. This season is the same as last season, November 1st to April 1st. And we do operate on a first come, first serve basis. New this year compared to last year, we have increased the capacity from 8 to 10 beds within the space. This was in response to a growing need and having several nights where our capacity was exceeded last shelter season, but also based on recommendations that we got from Alberta Health Services when they came into the Scout Hall space and sort of advised that we could have 10 beds within the space. And the check-in period is from 9:30 to 11:30 p.m. each night, and then checkout in the morning is at 9 a.m. So folks can come into the space between 9:30 to 9 a.m., access a warm bed, as well as some other supports. So within the shelter space, we have 2 staff on site at all times. We provide warm meals. So last shelter season, we provided 937 hot meals to folks accessing the program. We also provide shower pass tickets through collaborations with the Town of Canmore's Recreation Services Shower Pass program. We have donated clothing, hygiene kits, but we also have an opportunity to connect with the shelter guests to offer supports, referrals, help them navigate the system to find other resources they may need, whether it's health-related, employment-related, etc. This is just a little demonstration of impact of the shelter program. So the table that you see on the left-hand side shows the growth in the use of the program year over year. So this current season is our 6th consecutive winter season. This data is from the past 5 shelter seasons. So what you'll notice is that each shelter season, we've seen a longer operating period. Last season was 40 days longer than the year prior. But you'll also see a growing use in the program. So something that's really a really staggering data point for us, 1,420% increase in the number of nights we exceeded capacity last winter season in comparison to the previous winter season. We also supported 18 more unique individuals last winter season than we had in the previous shelter season. So really just demonstrating that the program, the use of the program is increasing. With regards to demographic data, just to kind of give a little bit of a snapshot and help you wrap your head around, the demographics of those using the program. Being a low barrier shelter, we don't require that folks share demographic data with us, but we do have an optional demographic survey. So last season, we had 26 surveys complete. There is the potential of duplication if someone unintentionally completed the survey more than once, so just a caveat there. But what we learned from this was that Majority of the respondents have lived in the Bow Valley for 5+ years, so they're longer-term Bow Valley residents. We also had 6 respondents indicated that they were employed at the time of using the shelter, either on a part-time, seasonal, or full-time basis. We also noted that we see a large population of male identifying individuals, with the predominant age range being between 26 to about 54. This piece around shelter use patterns. So for the first time last shelter season, we were able to track the number of nights each unique individual stays at the shelter. And so what we found across 58 unique individuals accessing the program, 74% or 43 only access the shelter for 1 to 20 nights. So really serving as sort of that emergency shelter solution. And then we had a smaller proportion, 5% or 3 unique individuals access the program for 101 to 151 nights. So that would be majority of the shelter season. As always, we prioritize getting feedback from the folks using the program to make sure that it's meeting a community need and with the growth mindset. We hear that opening November 1st is really critical. Any later poses some pretty significant risks for folks who may be having to be sleeping rough outdoors. There is a lot of conversations around the need for consistent food resources, with many folks not only facing housing insecurity, but also facing food insecurity. And we also asked, if you weren't accessing the shelter, where else might you stay? What we heard is similar to previous years, that folks would resort to sleeping rough in the forest, maybe trying to couch surf or sleeping in their vehicles. So for our outreach program, as mentioned, this is a year-round program where we help navigate the local system of care, make referrals, and offer emergency supports dependent on our budget. As mentioned this year, we piloted a community food cupboard initiative in collaboration with FCSS Canmore, the Bow Valley Food Bank, the Bow Valley Food Alliance, and it was supported by Canmore Community Housing, funded by the Banff Canmore Foundation, as well as the town of Canmore. So this initiative offered free shelf-stable food for anyone facing food insecurity. We saw a wide range of demographics accessing the cupboard, from families to seniors to folks who may be precariously housed. It ran from May 26th to November 1st out of the Canmore Community Housing office space during the pilot phase. In that period, we had 527 visits, an average of 7.6 visitors per day, and we provided 7,200 items to folks facing food insecurity in our community. And then in conjunction with the cupboard operations, we were running in-person outreach services, so folks could come in, chat with our team, and get further support. We had 62 outreach clients, and we were able to provide various supports, some of which include shower pass tickets, but also bus tickets to access shelter programs in Calgary. And then just wanted to highlight a few other areas where HSBV is really prioritizing collaboration and community impact. So we have continued to run our monthly clothing and gear swaps in collaboration with the Canmore Public Library. This is an initiative that has been funded by the town of Canmore as well. Between January to October 2025, we had 10 swaps and a total of 4,355 swap visits. Not unique, but just number of folks coming through the door. These are a really great way to promote a local circular economy and provide free items to anyone in need. HSBV also co-chairs the Homeless to Housing Coalition alongside the YWCA Banff. And we work on a variety of projects together in response to housing insecurity. And then we partnered with the town of Canmore and YWCA Banff for the Housing and Service Needs Estimation Project, which happened over October. So there will be some more data from that to share in the future once that data is analyzed. I'm running out of time here, but just really quickly going to share that HSBV is still very much prioritizing long-term sustainability and longevity in terms of a future shelter solution. We have a 3-year strategic plan that we're working towards, one of which is trying to establish or at least come with a direction for a long-term shelter solution. I can keep going? Okay, great. Yeah, so as part of this, our board of directors is working really closely with myself to come up with potential long-term solutions, ways we may be able to collaborate with partners and also find some strategic ways to establish a potential permanent solution. And then just the last slide here, I won't dive too much into this piece, but just wanted to highlight some of the areas that the town of Canmore has supported HSBV, ranging from the Scout Hall access, which has been critical in order for us to be able to run the program as long as we do, the community food cupboard, referral partnerships, and continued extreme weather partnership, which will hopefully not be needed this winter. And then, of course, we do have access to the community grants program in support of our cupboard and clothing and gear swaps. And that is everything for me for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cleric, for your presentation. Excellent. And you were covering a lot of information, so I knew you were getting near the end there. So I didn't want to deny you the complete finish because you covered a lot. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to open it up to any members of the committee of the whole that would like to ask questions. Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks, Ms. Clark. I wonder if you could describe to me what overcapacity looks like. I think you've got 10 beds. You can put 10 people in there. Describe overcapacity.
Yeah, so I'll describe overcapacity in the context of last shelter season. Since last shelter season, we had a capacity of 8 beds. And so on 71 nights, we were over capacity. So we had more than 8 folks coming to the shelter in need of shelter for the night. So what we do in those situations is first refer to the YWCA Banff, who we work closely with the hope of having an overflow room or room within their programming to refer someone to. If that's not an option, we have partnerships with local hotel providers that we may be able to put someone in a hotel room for the night with fees being incurred to HSBV. Ultimately, that's dependent on their availability, so it's never guaranteed.
So we haven't got, a family of 5 sleeping in one bed kind of thing?
Well, we haven't had any families come to the shelter space, and if we were to have, youth approach the space, the shelter is not the most suitable resource, so we would refer out of the shelter program. But to answer your question, no, we wouldn't want multiple people in one bed.
Thank you very much for the good work you do.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Ma.
Thank you, Your Worship. And Ms. Cleric, thanks for everything that you do. I think the one eye-popping stat was the 1,420%, where the shelter was over capacity. By bumping up from 8 beds to 10, do you think that'll make a meaningful difference for that stat, or are we still going to be hitting a lot of nights of overcapacity?
I would say, if I were to look at last year's data and the number of nights, the average sort of guests we were seeing each night, my hope is that it will, having a 10-bed capacity will alleviate or reduce the number of nights we're over capacity. But I foresee there still being several nights where we will be over capacity. Last winter, the most number of unique individuals we had come to the shelter was 14 in one night. So I'm anticipating it will happen.
And it would seem like the stats that would point to this, but I was curious in your mind, I feel homelessness, looking at these statistics you provided, is on the rise. Here in Canmore, in the Bow Valley, would you agree with that?
I would say that the experience of housing insecurity is becoming more and more common and among a wider range of demographics, including folks who, as I've mentioned, may be employed in the community, or perhaps seeing more folks who may be sleeping in their vehicles primarily and needing to access shelter during those colder months. So I would say that arguably, yes, you could argue that it is on the rise based on this data. My hesitancy, or not hesitancy, I guess the one caveat I would take into consideration is that we are a young organization, and so the awareness of our programs, I also think, has increased. So more folks who need the shelter know where we're located, which is great. That's important. But I would argue that yes, it's on the rise, housing insecurity.
Thank you.
Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks, Ms. Cleric. It's amazing to see the growth of your organization in such a short period of time here, and expanding into new areas like food insecurity. You've just wrapped up your community food cupboard pilot. What's next for that program?
Yeah, that's a great question. So very quickly, the cupboard became, it kind of took off, you could say. So it started slow and then it really picked up, and we had a lot of folks coming to use the service. And as I've mentioned, a wide range of folks, families, seniors. So we saw, the group collectively saw that this was making a big impact in the community, and we want to keep the impact going. We want to keep the project going. So right now we have interimly placed the cupboard in the FCSS space while we find a more long-term location for the cupboard. So that's something that we're still working on. Right now the cupboard is continuing operations on a reduced scale under what we're calling winter hours while we try to find a long-term home for it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Don't see any other questions. I would like to add a few of my own comments. So thank you for coming today. There was a number of stats that you provided that really spoke to me, but one of the things that I think is not commonly understood is the length of tenure that clients of the shelter have had in Canmore. With only 25% being really short-term, and 50% being people that have been here over 5 years, up to 25 years. So it really is a support for, in the most part, most support for our community members. So that's one thing. And then the other is that the need is great. And we can see that by the number of nights that are over the amount that we're able to provide a bed for. So that tells me you're doing really great work. And every time I get or hear a presentation from the shelter or see an update, it's always bittersweet for me, because I'm very proud of the work that's being done. I was proud to be part of the initiative that broke the inertia for the pilot program, and to get that going. And I'm so happy you and your group have taken it many levels up. So well done. But this work it's not only life-saving, it is literally life-saving, but it is also at times, if we can connect, or you can connect people, it's life-changing too. So I really appreciate that. But it's also because of the need. I mean, I'm very happy that you can provide the service. Well, I'm very sad that there are people that are struggling to the extent that they just might be out in the cold if there wasn't this opportunity. So thank you again for the work you do and for coming here today and providing an update.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I will be back in the spring.
Now we'll switch over from one delegation to the next. And now we have the Alberta World Cup Society Para-Nordic World Cups update. Mr. Mackay, you're going to do...
You've got it. Oh, perfect.
You're going to do some introductions here?
Yes. Yeah. We'll save the song and dance for these two, but it's my pleasure to introduce Norbert Meyer and Ken Davies, long-term supporters of the sport within the Bow Valley, specifically the ski variety. And they're here today to talk to you about the Para-Nordic World Cup events occurring in just a few weeks. So I'll pass it over to the two of you.
Mr. Meyer, Mr. Davies, welcome. Whenever you're ready, the microphone is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much, first of all, for the opportunity to speak and present to you. We represent the two societies that have, since 2005, brought international sports events to Canmore of the cross-country skiing and biathlon type up at the Nordic Center. And we wanted to share with you today the details and information about the Para-Nordic World Cups that are coming in early December. So para cross-country skiing and para biathlon. Thank you. So there are two separate World Cups. Formerly, it was one unified World Cup, but because of the two international federations deciding to go their own ways, we now have two separate World Cups. One is the first one, cross-country skiing, December 3rd to December 7th, and then followed immediately by the Para-Biathlon World Cup under the auspices of the International Biathlon Union. Each of those events, each of those race days, there are three categories of disabled athletes. There's sitting, vision impaired, and standing. So sitting would be a wheelchair athlete that you would see in the Paralympics in the summer going around a track, while here they're in a sit ski. And for each of those categories, there are separate disability classification levels as well. And there's a whole process that all the athletes have to go through to get classified in that regard, so that the level playing field exists for all the athletes competing. We have 20 countries that have committed to coming. We had a late entry today, Tuesday. On Friday, we were asked if we could accept Mongolia to come as well, and we said, well, of course. We will always open our doors for the para-athletes from Mongolia. And so about 120, 125 athletes and the same number of team officials, coaches, wax technicians, and so on. And of course, we can't do any of this without the volunteers. And we have over 200 volunteers, most of whom live in the Bow Valley, but we have volunteers from all over Alberta as well. And that's always one of the points of pride for us, that so many people from elsewhere want to be part of what we do and be part of the hosting group for our community. On December 6th, we have our Partner Appreciation Day. And one of the highlights is that we invited and we received the confirmation that Minister Boychenko, our Minister for Tourism and Sport in Alberta, will be coming. And of course, we have an agenda for our conversation with Minister Boychenko. Rachel Ludwig, and we've been in touch with Tourism Canmore Kananaskis as well to make sure that our efforts and our messaging and our collaboration and relationship building is aligned, because we definitely are working together on raising the attention of the provincial government to the value of sports tourism, not just in the Bow Valley, but in Alberta in total. We got lucky to the nth degree this year that our opening ceremony is December 3rd, and that also happens to be the International Day for People with Disability. It just doesn't get any better. So we also invited Adam van Kerveren, the Secretary of State for Sport. We haven't heard back whether or not he's going to attend, but Becky Scott, the CEO of Nordic Canada, is a personal friend of Adam van Kerveren, both being Olympic gold medalists, so we're hoping that personal invitation will carry the day. But there's been a group working on the IDPD day and that week, so the celebration week, led by Ruth Pryor from FCSS, and we've been working with that group since July to integrate what we're doing, to make available what we're doing for the benefit of that celebration week. And so one of the features will be that we have our opening ceremonies out here on the plaza at 4 o'clock on the 3rd, and as of 5 o'clock, the resource fair will open up in the space behind us here. So it's been great to work with that group, and we're really happy that we can help shine a light on what they're doing, and we can just amplify the messages around the importance of making sure our community is accessible and inclusive. Part of the process has been working with Rocky Mountain Adaptive. Over the last 2 years, we've met with Jamie McCullough and looked at how their programming can benefit from our event. And so we're partnering with them to shine a big spotlight on RMA's programming. And they have 2 days of try it opportunities organized with mainly sit skis, but also skiing with a guide. And so we'll do as much as we can to support their efforts. And we're also in touch with a group called the Calgary Adapted Hub, which is an umbrella group for over 100 organizations in Calgary and the Bow Valley for people with disabilities. And so we're asking them to communicate the opportunities, and we're looking to partner with as many of their organizations as possible to welcome their members to our event. So the teams arrived. The Koreans arrived November 8th. The Americans arrived last week. You'll see more and more athletes.
Half of them are here.
So more and more para-athletes in town. They love our town. They love coming here. They find it a very welcoming and open and accessible community. but it also underlines the value of the Nordic Center to our community. And I can't say enough about how much that facility brings to our community for those of us privileged to live here, but it's also one of our major tourism assets. And of course, in doing all of these events, we're fully aligned with the tourism strategy that Tourism Canmore Kananaskis has developed and that the town has approved. We try and impact the world in three ways. One is obviously through sport, and our events have a great sport impact. This is the opening World Cup of the Paralympic season, and the Canadian team has done really well at the previous 3 Paralympics that we've had the opening World Cup, so we're hoping that'll continue. And of course, it's an opportunity to develop athletes and have that progression go to the national team. But we have our school visitation program with 2 Paralympians visiting Bow Valley schools in the week before that we're sponsoring, and thanks to the Women Nancy Powell Foundation and Rocky Mountain Adaptive, making that possible. We have our usual Adopt a Nation program where classes adopt a nation and do artwork, and we put it in stores, and it creates a bit of an atmosphere. We're also sponsoring the transportation needs for youth from our schools to come to the World Cup on the 2 Thursdays involved, the 4th and the 11th. Our opening ceremony I've already mentioned, and then the whole effort to integrate with what we're doing with what the Disability Celebration Week is all about. And I think Ken's going to speak a little bit to the economic impact.
I get left to talk about dollars. Yeah, so sorry, well, yeah, sorry. Okay. Yeah, so just quickly, I never know if people really understand what happens when we run these events at the Nordic Center. So each time we have one, which is most years, we do independent economic assessments, the impact assessments for both Canmore, Alberta, and Canada at large. The last time we ran a similar event was the exact same time 4 years ago, and it was the same, both combined cross-country and biathlon, and the independent assessment then gave a total spend of 1.14 million. Visitor spend was 677,000, and 425,000 directly in local wages. So we we'll do this again this year. I know we've been in front of the council before in past years. We also have, Norbert and I serve the same roles with able-bodied, and the numbers jump up even higher. That's largely because of the TV coverage. So we will do, there's video coverage for this, there's some live streaming that goes with it, but it doesn't have the same impact. So we go to well over 6 million an event when we do the able-bodied ones. We're hopeful. Norbert and I have always been proud to really support the para movement. If you haven't seen a para event of any kind, it's just so inspiring what Jessica was presenting was inspiring to me, but this is also inspiring. So I really encourage you to come and see that. But it has a big impact, and that's, I think we want to say that. Lastly, so Ben will just go through, we do want to recognize the town. So we didn't come with an ask. The town has been a great sponsor, and working with Eleanor, she couldn't be here today, but working with Eleanor, she has all the right stuff as far as we're concerned. When we meet with her, we get direct responses. It's very easy to work with the town, and we're going to continue to come back. And I think the only message we want to leave you with is that, similar to what Jessica was saying, is we need long lead times. We cannot just sort of line up and say, we're going to do this next year. We're now looking at bidding. Well, we have events coming in 28, 29. We're bidding on events for 30, 33. Like these are all like, so we can't just sort of stop, and because it doesn't work like that. So the town support with that sort of longer range vision is really what fills the gap for us. And so we can't tell you how important that is, so we appreciate it. It may seem like it all comes together in a week or two, but it's really not. It takes a little more than that. So anyway, welcome any questions. 13 seconds.
Just to add to what Ken is saying, we also apply for funding support from the provincial government and the federal government, of course. The reality of those contracts is that we cannot allocate any of our costs to those contracts until the contract's signed. Right. And that's usually 2 years in advance of the event. Yeah. When we start working on an event 4 years in advance, that bidding cost, all the preparation you need to get to that starting line with the federations is where the town grant has been really valuable to us. Yeah. And we would just encourage you to when budgets come around, to think of the longer lead time major events take. And we are in a worldwide competition for these events. You know, there are the people who want to hold these things. And we're fortunate to have the facility and the community we have, and so, but it does take a while. So anyway, yeah. Any questions, please?
Great, thank you very much for your presentation. And there is a question here from Councillor Marin.
Thanks, Mayor Crowsert. I just wanted to, I don't have a question. I just wanted to say thank you. I really do recognize how much work that you put into bringing these events to Canmore. And then your collaboration with the town of Canmore, Rocky Mountain Adaptive, TCK, all of those organizations. But I think the community impact, obviously there's the economic piece, but being with the schools and just having access to these sports in Canmore is really important. So I just wanted to say thank you for all of your efforts, even with the 4-year lead time, to make sure that these events are coming to town.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ma.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Mr. Davies, Mr. Meyer. These things are a heavy lift, and they bring a ton to the community, so thank you so much. I really appreciate the fact that you're bringing in Minister Boychenko for Minister of Tourism and Sport coming down to the Valley for the event. Are there any other ministers that you would like to have down here or have sent the invitation out towards?
Well, we also invited Minister Lowen,
Okay.
Minister for Parks, Forestry and Parks, and unfortunately his schedule is full that day. And so we're happy to have Minister Boychenko. Hopefully Secretary of State will come as well.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, who else?
sorry.
So Mr. Boychenko, and who was the other person you mentioned there, Mr. Meyer?
Todd Lowen.
Todd Lowen, yeah.
And, for different reasons, some of you may notice there's a project going on at the Nordic Center.
For
We
sure.
Also invited the Minister for Alberta Infrastructure, but he's keeping a low profile to us, so anyway.
Okay.
Just
Well,
say that. That's all.
well, thank you for the heads up about that. And if there's ways we can help, we'll try. Okay, great.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions, but I want to add my own couple of comments here. That the description of inspiring is so accurate. Every time I've had the privilege and honor of to go up there and be part of medal ceremonies and stuff like that, it's very exciting and incredibly inspiring because these are superb athletes.
Yeah.
So everybody should get up and come cheer these athletes on. I'm sure that the athletes that have arrived are really welcoming the snow that came down today. The mountainsides are looking whiter and whiter, so that's good. And I just want to say I'm really looking forward to being part of the opening on the 3rd and being there on the 6th and seeing Minister Boychenko and taking in the event. So thank you very much for all you do, and I echo what my colleagues have said. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ken.
All right, so now we'll move on to item C1, which is minutes from the June 17th Committee of the Whole meeting. That's a while ago. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, I'll move approval of the minutes of June 17th, 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting as circulated. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. And we're going to move to a staff report, and while Mr. Robbins is setting up, I am going to ask Ms. Smithers to just provide a little bit of context, especially for our new members, as well as to refresh the memory of all of the committee here as to why we have this report coming back to us. Ms. Smithers.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm happy to do that today. And fitting that we had Finance Committee this morning, because around this time last year in Finance Committee, there was considerable discussion amongst the Finance Committee members around the importance of circular economy and curiosity around whether the town could or should be doing more in that space. And I will say a lot of that discussion was led by Councillor Faubert. So coming out of those Finance Committee meetings, Councillor Faubert and Ms. Van Gaal and I sat down and talked through circular economy, how it shows up in Canmore and the Bow Valley, and what work remains to be done. And from that, we landed on, and the motion that Councillor Faubert put forward was related to just coming forward to talk to council about what is being done in Canmore and the Bow Valley, because some of it is absolutely owned by the town, a lot of it is owned by other community partners in town, and some of those we work in partnership with. And then related to that, we do have approved for the 2026 budget, the zero waste coordinator position, who will be taking on some of this work as well. So we thought it would be a good opportunity to share with council the information we have around what's already being done and what are the next steps. So just wanted to provide that overview to give some context to why the report is coming forward today. And with that, I'll hand it over to Mr. Robbins and Ms. Fournier to walk you through the great work that is being done.
Thank you, Ms. Smithers and Mr. Robbins. Ms. Fournier, welcome. Whenever you're ready, the microphone is yours.
Excellent. Good afternoon, Council and Mayor Krauser. So we have a circular economy update. So we'll provide sort of an explanation and some background on the context of circular economy in Canmore. We'll also look at, some of the initiatives that are already being undertaken, and then also look at the work plan, like was discussed, of the zero waste coordinator. And then we'll have lots of time at the end for questions, if anyone has any. And then this is just that motion that was spoken to, that the reason that we're here. So what is circular economy? So we'll have a little lesson here to start with. We can start with where we predominantly are now, and we're in a more of a linear economy at the moment, where we're take, make, and waste. So we take resources, we make stuff, and then we throw it in the garbage. There's a little bit of recycling that goes on, so there are some products that circle around for a bit of time, but then ultimately end up in the garbage. So the idea of circularity is that just those 3 points. We want to keep products and materials in use. We don't want to throw things in the garbage. We want to design out waste and pollution, and then we want to think of things as a value access over ownership. So really, in the simplistic view of it, we're looking at the 2 R's at the beginning. We have 3 R's: reduce, reuse. We want to really focus on those. So come back and refocus, where lots of our focus recently has been on the recycle R, which is actually the 3rd lowest one of them all. And this is not a new concept, right? We've been circular for a while. It's been the last few decades that we've been stuck in this linear process. And so we need to, like I said, refocus back to the circularity. And it's not just about the environment. It's also social and has social and economic benefits. So sharing, reuse, and repair have tremendous potential to create inclusive jobs and for all skill and income levels, and support more affordable daily living. And it should be a thing that's community-led, so it's tangible and manageable for the individuals and for the community, and so that everyone can participate. It's not a technology, it's just a way of thinking, it's a philosophy of a way to keep things circular. So how did we get here? Prior to 2001, our recycling efforts were mainly driven by our solid waste management plan and our environmental sustainability action plan. But in 2021, we took part in the Circular Cities and Regions initiative, which brought 15 communities across Canada to get together with support from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, the Recycling Council of Alberta, Recycle Quebec, and the National Zero Waste Council. And through a year long of workshops, we were provided training on circular economy, and then help with building a roadmap for Canmore's priorities. The priorities that came out of our roadmap were these 3, so the sharing and reuse economy, regenerative tourism, and the built environment were our 3 top priorities that were identified. Some work had been done in 2023 towards the built environment. So we did a best practices review for construction, renovation, and demolition waste, just to see what's the best way to take care of that material. The reason for that focus was we're building lots and we're wasting lots. So the International Energy Agency estimates that the global built floor area, so this is the whole world, will increase by 20% by the
year 2030. So this is the equivalent of building the surface area of Paris every week by 2050. So that's a lot of space being used, a lot of waste being made. We'll run a space for that waste. We have a finite amount of resources. Those are going to become more expensive and harder to get, and affordability is going to be more difficult. So to formalize these efforts to look back at reduce and reuse and think more circular, some points were added to the Climate Emergency Action Plan, which was approved in 2024. And those two actions were to develop and implement a zero waste strategy, and then also develop a regional construction and renovation waste strategy as well. So with that lesson done, I'll pass it on to Ms. Fournier, and she'll tell us about all the great things that are happening in Canmore.
Thank you.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Mayor and Council. So as Mr. Robbins said, the circular economy is about much more than just waste and recycling and protecting the environment, and includes different business models and business approaches. So these are 5 different business models put forward by the Circular Innovation Council, which is a Canadian organization. In your council briefing that we prepared, all of the local initiatives have been categorized into these different approaches. And the reason we did that is just to show how local businesses and organizations are contributing to Canmore's circular economy in very different ways and different approaches. So in the next couple slides, I'm going to highlight local examples. I am going to miss many. We don't have time to cover them all. Even in your briefing, which has the more comprehensive list, there's more out there than I'm sure that we've listed. So apologies to all of them. So on the top left, we have some volunteers from the Food Recovery Barn. So this nonprofit organization takes food that is perfectly good, but for whatever reason is not deemed sellable, and then the volunteers display it, and twice a week people can come, and anyone can come, and pick out whatever food they'd like to take home. There are ample opportunities in this town to buy used sports gear. So from pop-up events like the Nordic ski swap to our consignment stores and online sales, the thrift store, and these go beyond just gear. You can get almost anything used. And moving on to more of our long-standing sharing economy as represented by the public library. One of the exciting things that happened this year is they expanded their library of things. So you can get a lot at the library, not just books. So these are things like power tools and air fryers and food dehydrators. This is really great for people who live in small spaces, don't have room for these bulky items, but still would like access to them. And I think the intention is to continue to grow that. Community cruisers in the bottom right there. They offer different circular opportunities, really in the realm of kind of product life extension. So they will take old bikes, fix them up, and either donate them back to the community or sell them. And the bike sales that they have fund all of their great other activities. You can also take your own bike to them, and their volunteer mechanics will help you fix them and maintain your own bike. For food that is not appropriate to be donated, one of our grocery stores uses Loop. So this is a Canada-wide program. What it does is connect grocers with high volumes of food waste with local farmers. So the farmers come and pick up spent food and take them back to their farms and feed them to their animals. And this is a really great program because a lot of the food waste that comes from grocery stores is packaged. So you think of a head of lettuce wrapped in plastic, and it's really difficult for the staff and time-consuming and a big barrier to depackage that food. But for the farmers, it's worth their while because of the money they're saving on animal feed. So they'll do the depackaging. The Co-Kitchen is a great example of kind of product as a service or kind of access over ownership. So they rent out a commercial kitchen space to people who need it, but only occasionally. So if you think about folks selling stuff at a farmer's market, setting up a commercial kitchen for them is really expensive, don't have a lot of space, so they can just access that when needed. And then moving on from owning used gear, you can just rent gear. Lots of those available in town, which is really appropriate and great for our visitor economy. This one on the bottom left is just one example of many businesses in town that rent gear. So they'll set you up with a hiking backpack with everything you need, including bear spray, and deliver it to your hotel or home. So you can go off to the bush and give it back when you're done. The Bow Valley Waste Management Commission, they have a partnership with Habitat for Humanity. So they have a sea can on site at the landfill. And when the operators notice something that's, obviously resaleable, and they have the time, they will put it in the sea can, and then once it fills up, Habitat for Humanity will come pick it up, take it back to one of their restores in Calgary, and sell it. Habitat for Humanity also will come to the Bow Valley if people need pickup and they have materials, and they'll issue a tax receipt in exchange for those. So I know I've heard that a couple hotels have used this service, so when they're switching over their furniture, that has gone to Habitat for Humanity. So I'm going to move on to town projects that were delivered this past year. All of these were in partnership with others. So we held our first ever Share and Repair Fair in the spring, and this was in partnership with the Biosphere. The intent was to have a celebratory event showcasing all of the local businesses and organizations participating in the circular economy. So there were workshops, booths, offering on-site repairs, and where it couldn't be repaired on-site, they would advise or do the intake, let people know if it was fixable. There were also folks teaching people how to fix things or alter things. We had volunteers who brought their sewing machines and were doing mending on site. The event was specifically co-located and timed to coincide with the swap, the library swap that was mentioned with the delegation earlier. So that swap, the monthly one for the library, is great. It really provides a nice addition to the thrift store because it's items that people can take for free, and it includes items that might not be sellable but still usable. So that was a great part of the event. Some people even got clothes from the swap and then brought them over and got mended. So that was a lot of fun and well attended. If you went to the Folk Fest this year, the Highland Games, you may have had a beer in a plastic cup that was reusable, or a coffee from one of the mountain markets this summer. So while this is a seemingly simple thing, it was actually a big first for a lot of the events, and thanks to a partnership between us, Tourism Canmore Kananaskis, Bow Valley Waste Management Commission, Rotary Club of Canmore, and supported by the Biosphere, especially at the Folk Fest. The service provider was Muse, so that was kind of a turnkey operation. Brought the cups, did the washing service, brought them back the next day. They used the co-kitchen as the commercial dishwashing facilities there so they could sanitize the cups. So we're looking at doing a few more events this winter. We're in touch with the special arts and events to see if we can do not just cups, but reusable dishes for our New Year's Eve event. As mentioned earlier, CRD, construction, renovation, demolition waste, is a big deal and important, both from a waste reduction perspective, but also greenhouse gases. So from the sheer volume and weight, it represents about 40% of our landfilled waste in Canmore. But wood waste, which is a large component of CRD material, when it degrades in a landfill, just like food waste, it will create methane, so it's an important climate concern as well. So with this particular waste stream, there's a lot of economic value in it. So one of the things that came up in the original best practice report was a stat that an estimated 75% of CRD waste globally has potential value through recycling and reuse, and yet it's being thrown away. And as mentioned earlier, the raw materials for building will get more and more scarce and more expensive, and so there's also an economic benefit to start to think about how we can get systems in place to recycle and reuse this material. Over the last year, the Waste Management Commission worked with its 3-member municipalities to develop a regional solid waste or a CRD waste plan. The goal is to increase diversion rates in the short term to consistently above 70%, but work towards that longer term idea of zero waste and circularity. There's also kind of a desire to have consistency in policy and programs across the region. The initial actions in the plan are really focused on education. And as an immediate next step to fulfill that, the Commission is budgeting for a new position next year. And a big part of their work will be that education piece. And what will be kind of new and different will be the intention of having them to actually travel to construction sites and speak with the tradespeople and contractors there to understand what the barriers might be. This is not a one-size-fits-all approach. Some developers and some sites are doing amazing work and have high diversion rates, while others aren't at all. And so the idea is to provide more targeted support and really kind of in situ support. The position will also spend time actively increasing reuse and diversion at the Francis Cook Recovery Center. So there's efforts to divert, mentioned the Habitat for Humanity partnership, but that's really done on an ad hoc basis when there's kind of time or it's slow enough that the operators can take the time to move the equipment, or move the stuff that they find. But this position can help ensure there's some growth in that area because there is a lot of opportunity out there. The other thing that's happening is there's a grant application in process to the Calgary Foundation, and it's a Biosphere and Waste Management Commission co-applied for it. So having a big kind of restore type place for furniture and all the stuff that comes off of construction sites would be amazing, would be ideal, but the big barrier here is space and land costs. And so what they're looking for the grant to do is to pilot an approach that's more of like a reuse broker approach. And so if they get the funding, they'll use it towards hiring a staff person that will coordinate proactively and try to coordinate and get generators of CRD waste connected with potential end users. And there's going to be like a transportation element. And so part of the funding will be used to transport materials from one site to another or from Francis Cook. So this photo here is of perfectly good roofing materials that was dropped off at Francis Cook for landfill. So with this project, the ideal is that this could go straight from one site to another. It wouldn't even go to Francis Cook. And there'll be a virtual component to this, and they're even looking at finding some small storage space. So if something's often in a site, stuff has to go right away. That's why it ends up in the landfill. So if something needs to be stored for a couple of days until somebody can come get it, that's part of what the funding will go towards. And it'll just be really kind of a learning pilot to see what kind of materials are needed and what we could be focusing on. Lastly, a couple regional working groups are going to be formed to focus on how to most effectively implement the actions that were identified in the plan. And lastly, our zero waste coordinator. So as mentioned, this has been approved and budgeted. The big focus for them will be the actions in the Climate Emergency Action Plan. So building on that circular cities and regions roadmap that we had from 2021 to develop a full zero waste strategy and then work on implementation. And then secondly, we have the initial regional CRD waste plan, but it'll need a lot of work to actually implement. So that'll be a big focus of that role as well. We have our programs and our infrastructure in place for food waste diversion and recycling, yet our most recent waste audit did show that there still is a lot of those materials going into both residential and commercial garbage. So a big focus of the new position will be the kind of direct community outreach and engagement, working with businesses, doing more hand-holding to make sure that that infrastructure and programs are kind of being maximized and all of that material is getting out of the garbage and into the appropriate streams. And lastly, and a lot of this work may come kind of out of the zero waste strategy or kind of in alignment with it, but it's just to really focus on these great circular economy initiatives and sharing economy initiatives that could be expanded and grown and see how they can support that work in the community. So with that, Mr. Robbins and I will be available to answer any questions you have.
Great, thank you very much. Councillor Faubert.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I was hoping you could expand a bit on how circular economy and regenerative tourism either go together or with each other. Do they go hand in hand, or how do we maximize our ability to deliver on circular economy and also create opportunities for regenerative tourism?
For sure. That was identified in that original roadmap exercise, partly because of the large waste impact that our visitor economy has. We wanted to make sure that we captured it, and there was this regenerative tourism process happening adjacent to that, and because of that link, we wanted to make sure that that was clearly identified as an area of opportunity. So, and make sure that we're working hand in hand with that, and the idea of regenerative tourism will also forward kind of our circular economy efforts, and we didn't want to lose that. So, I mean, just as a quick example, the work, with say zero waste events, or the CUP pilot really came out of that stream, is that we have these big community events. A lot of them are attended by visitors and are a really great part of our community and our offerings. And then people can come and experience what a zero waste event could look like. So that's just one example. Yeah, some of the gear rental is huge, and that's the visitor economy supports a lot of these gear rental business, and so that can ramp up.
Has there been any discussion around how we create greater awareness about what's already going on and who might be best positioned to create that awareness? Because as I was reading the report, I was just really proud of all that was going on. And I think I had heard of most of it somehow, but to see it all together, it actually got me excited, and so I'm just wondering how many more people like me in the community would go like, wow, I could actually maybe utilize these things more.
Yeah, for sure. So a couple quick answers. One, the Biosphere actually has been putting together a circular economy map on their website. So, I mean, not many people know about it or know to go there, but they're trying to do that because I think, your point is valid. There's lots of things that are happening, and they're like, yeah, that's cool, but you don't actually know it's part of something bigger. It's part of this kind of suite of things that really make up the circular economy. And the circular economy too is jargony, and it's a weird term, so that's hard to lead with. So I know that they are trying to just recognize what is happening and map it out, both for Banff and Canmore. And then the second answer I would provide, and feel free to jump in if you have anything more, but would be that's a big part of the zero waste coordinator's role, is to figure out and celebrate that. And just by having that position, I think will bring a lot of awareness to that. But yeah,
great.
That is hopefully something they can help further.
Very good, thanks very much. Any other questions? I don't see any. So thank you very much for this update and for bringing it top of mind for us. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to actually call a break now, and we're going to come back at 2:20. All right, we're back, and now we're moving on to item D2, which is the Integrated Transportation Plan Update Project. Ms. Pendon, welcome to Committee of the Whole, and whenever you're ready, the microphone is yours.
Thank you, and good afternoon. I'm happy to provide you with an update on the Integrated Transportation Plan Update Project. And to add another acronym to your acronym library, I'll be referring to the plan using the term ITP in my presentation today. Canmore first adopted an ITP in 2014, shifting away from a traditional transportation master plan, or TMP. The traditional TMP is a highly technical, implementation-focused plan which deals solely with transportation infrastructure and identifies required roadway improvements based on increasing roadway capacity and reducing roadway congestion. An ITP considers a holistic approach integrating land use, sustainability, and all modes of transportation. It is intended to be a broad, policy-driven, long-term vision that focuses on multimodal integration, climate action, equity, and resilience. It identifies transportation network scenario planning, sustainability targets, and policy alignment, and provides guiding principles and priorities. The latest update to Canmore's ITP was adopted in 2018 and provides policies and framework to manage transportation infrastructure to 2030. The goals of the 2018 plan strive for trips on our transportation network to be made up of 60% cars and 40% transit, bike, and walk, and for a reduction in traffic collisions by 10% annually. Why did we set these goals? Canmore's geography limits road expansion because of the narrow valley that we live in, the rivers and creeks that we need to cross, Highways 1, 1A, and 72 that bisect our community, as well as the at-grade rail crossings on Railway Avenue. With more and more people and visitors living here and visiting here every year, traffic congestion will get worse, particularly in the summer months. So the solution, design streets so that more people can walk, bike, or take the bus. This increases system capacity without needing more road space, and fringe benefits of this approach include lower GHGs, healthier people, and activation of public spaces. I really like the graphic to the right of the screen. It's out of the Edinburgh Mobility Plan, and it demonstrates the amount of space that 50 people take up within the physical space of a road. So 50 pedestrians on top, 50 cyclists, 50 people in a bus, 50 people on a tram, and then 50 people in cars, assuming 1.5 people capacity per vehicle. So you can see clearly that this mode shift does take up less room on our roads and provides additional capacity for growth. Sustainable transportation and achieving a shift in how people choose to travel depends on an important concept called latent demand. This is the unrealized potential for people to switch from their current mode of transport, like cars, to other options like public transit, walking, cycling, or shared mobility. The suppressed demand can be revealed by removing barriers like poor infrastructure, high costs, or inconvenience, and by creating incentives that make alternative modes more attractive. Policies can be designed to unleash this demand and encourage a shift. The current plan identifies the following strategies to achieve the plan goals: simplified street classifications, complete streets design guidance, appropriate road speeds, continued evolution of Main Street to an activity street, and general intersection improvements. Here's a little bit of a recap of some of the things that our community has achieved since we set these goals in 2018. Roadway classifications were simplified to arterial, collector, and local roads. The Engineering, Design, and Construction Guidelines, or EDCG as we commonly refer to it, were updated to include design guidance for complete streets in new development areas. Complete streets are roads designed to be safe and accessible for all users: pedestrians, cyclists, transit users, and drivers of all ages and abilities. This image shows the typical cross-section of a collector road as an example and indicates dedicated space allocated in the road right-of-way for each type of users. As you can see, the roadway where drivers would be using the road space is separated by physical space, either by parked vehicles or a landscaped zone, and then active modes on the outside of the road right-of-way with a separate bike path and sidewalk. Speed limits were lowered throughout the transportation networks, with speed limits generally set based on roadway classifications. Arterial roads at 50 kilometers per hour, collector roads at 30, and local roads at 30. Along with lowering posted speeds, the town also began implementing traffic control measures to facilitate driving speed reduction. This meant that the road would feel uncomfortable to drive at higher than posted speed limits, and this was done by introducing island medians, narrowing lane widths, and introducing raised crosswalks and raised intersections. Capital investments included retrofitting complete streets at key locations, reducing conflicts between modes at intersections, and ensuring dedicated space in the road right-of-way for all users to improve safety and comfort. Other programs included expansion of the local and regional transit system to include 3 fare-free local routes, paid parking in the town center and popular tourist destinations with revenue helping to fund sustainable transportation initiatives, supply of public bike repair stations equipped with tools and expanded and enhanced bike parking availability, and accessibility improvements including ramped curbs, pathway paving, enhancing lighting, and year-round maintenance. We're shifting the habits of how people get around in Canmore, and we're on track to reach our goal of 40% non-car trips by 2030, up from 20% as our goal in 2018. In 2025, active or shared transportation trips through the Benchlands Boulevard and Bow Valley Trail intersection saw walking trips up by 51%, bike trips up by 62%, and transit up by 13%, while car trips rose just 2% as compared to last year in 2024. The percentage of trips by foot or cycle through this intersection has increased from 11% in 2022 to 18.9% in 2025. Rome Transit daily trips are on track to grow from about 1,100 daily trips in 2022 to 2,500 daily trips in 2025. Collision rates have dropped from 130 in 2022 to 88 in 2024, which is especially notable considering the total volume of traffic has increased in that time. There have been several policy and planning documents adopted since the implementation of the 2018 ITP, and these help inform how our community will continue to grow. These include the Palliser Trail ASP, Connect Downtown ARP, the Smith Creek ASP, Three Sisters Village ASP, the Climate Emergency Action Plan, Integrated Parking Management Plan, and the Transit Service Review and Strategy. In consideration of all of this, it's time to update the plan. Our community has experienced considerable changes since the 2018 ITP, and this means that we're being purposeful about updating this forward-looking strategic plan that will inform transportation-related decision-making. We'll do this through this project by considering the previous plan, reflecting back and measuring our results, then consider current day vision, values, policies, strategies, and goals, along with input from our community to formalize an updated plan that best reflects the needs and values of our community into the future. To help frame our planning horizon, the updated plan will look forward to 2040. The project work will be categorized in 3 project phases: where we are, where we're going, and how we get there. The project started in June with the creation of a project charter. A traffic count and parking demand study was completed in August to capture peak summer and tourism activity, and we're now initiating the technical updates to the ITP, working with ISL as our technical consultant. The consultant has been conducting workshops with administration and site visits around town to understand the current transportation network context, including strategies and priorities for the future of the integrated transportation network. There's a workshop planned with council in early December, and the purpose of this workshop will be to gather your input on what you would like to see updated in the plan and to set the direction for the technical work to ensure its alignment with council priorities. The consultant team is also completing a document review of existing plans, policies, and data, including traffic and parking studies. We'll have 2 key engagement periods to gather input from the public and interest holders. One during the where we are and where we're going project phases to gather input to inform the updated plan, and one during the how we get there project phase to share the draft plan. After each engagement, we'll share a what we heard report that summarizes the feedback that we received and explains how that input was considered in the plan. In addition to broad public input, we'll ask for specific feedback on key parts of the plan, like where future infrastructure should go so that community insights can help fill gaps and improve outcomes. We'll include a strong educational component throughout the process to build awareness of Canmore's transportation context and explain key themes, goals for shifting travel modes, and progress so far. We'll also gather key input from key interest groups, including transportation organizations, business and development community, tourism, housing accessibility, environmental, and affordability groups. Our approach will include a mix of online and in-person engagement, including a dedicated project page on mycanmore.ca, online surveys, workshops, and open houses or pop-up engagement events. This approach is to help ensure the plan reflects a balanced view of community needs and aspirations. The ITP update project will be happening concurrently with 2 other strategy planning level projects, the land use bylaw update and the open spaces and trails plan. All 3 projects are being executed by administration in a coordinated manner to ensure strategy alignment across all 3 and to consider a coordinated effort as we approach the community for engagement and input. The draft plan is expected to be ready for council review in Q1 of 2027. I'm happy to take any questions or gather input for topics that you would like more information on during the workshop in December.
Thanks very much for that presentation, and this is exciting to see the new revised plan in the works. First thing, you verbally spoke to some numbers. Would you be able to provide those numbers to council so that we actually have them? It'd be very helpful for me. We get questions all the time about transportation, the effectiveness of the intersection, those sorts of things. And it's great to be able to provide the numbers because data tells the story, right?
Yeah, for sure. I'll just make a note of that and we can help facilitate that.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. Looking to committee of the whole to see if there are any questions. Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you very much. I'm really excited to see this embark, for sure. There's different levels of buy-in from the community, and I think the data that the mayor was asking for is super helpful for us to have, and for the community to have on a regular basis, so that they can see the fruits of these labors. And I think there's a lot that's been done and a lot going into it, and I'm really glad that we are re-looking at this and updating it. So I'll start with that. You answered almost all my questions, and I think we'll get to that. I think one of the things I'm hearing from the community a lot is e-bike usage, and how some members of the community are not very responsible in their usage of their e-bike. So I kind of wonder how that will fit in to the engagement process.
Yeah, certainly. I think there is benefit to an educational component through the ITP update and helping to share information on some of the guidance and legislation around e-bike use, as well the theory behind splitting up pedestrians and cyclists within a right-of-way, as well as splitting up cyclists and pedestrians from drivers, is because their operating speeds differ significantly, and when multiple users are sharing the same space, going at different speeds, that's when the conflict arises. So one thing that we might be looking at through this process is a decision-making framework that helps to establish what triggers might be of when it's time to split up potentially like higher speed e-bike users from other users within the bike network.
And when you were talking, thank you for that. And when you were talking about collisions, were you talking about vehicle collisions solely, or does that include other sorts of collisions?
That includes all reported collisions to the RCMP, and so it may be vehicle versus pedestrian or vehicle versus cyclist, cyclist versus pedestrian.
Okay.
It's whatever is reported in.
Okay, so it does include cyclist versus pedestrian?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Okay, thank you very much.
So I just wanted to add a perspective, just so that we're not singling out or othering any particular segment of the transportation users. Without a doubt, there are some e-bike riders that are not very courteous and are not following the rules. There's also non-e-bike riders doing the same thing. There's also pedestrians that are not paying attention and walking across pathways with headphones on. There's also drivers in motor vehicles that are not looking where they're going and running. So all modes need to learn better. And I do believe also that in each of those modes, there's also some very responsible users. There's people that have learned to walk on the right and be aware. There's bikers that have learned to keep the speed down. There's cars that have learned where to look, et cetera. So I think it's important that we don't frame the discussion against one mode. Councillor Faubert.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Are you asking council for feedback now on the things that we might want to discuss in a workshop? Or, yeah?
So just to clarify, it would be like if there are specific topics that you would like additional like technical information on to be able to inform an opinion or a decision as to what might be important for inclusion in the plan. But the workshop will really be the time to bring up your ideas and input for updating the new plan.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because I think for me, what comes top of mind is that we're not regulating bike speeds in any of our policies. There are provincial policies around, and Calgary has speeds for bikes, but we don't have speeds for bikes. I'm really interested in understanding the trade-offs around some of the infrastructure that we use for traffic calming and the long-term replacement costs and asset management costs of that infrastructure. So a lot of the concrete barriers and the signs. From how I understand it, the ITP directs this and we install it. But how are we considering the cost of replacing all these things in the future? Do we have a plan for replacing them? Are we saving money for replacing them? Do they require increased maintenance and operation, especially when we're using grass in boulevards? That to me speaks to a need for mowing that grass or maintaining that grass after the infrastructure goes in. I'd like to understand how these things play together and what parameters we put around them. The other thing that I'm really interested in is the design of the intersection, and if we want to continue using that nearsighted design in other intersections, do we have a standardized design for it that we can then use to design further infrastructure in our community? Because I know like that intersection was the first time that something like that's been designed in North America. And I'd like to use the ITP to demonstrate that not only are we innovating and succeeding when it comes to achieving the objectives that we have in plans like the ITP, but we're also learning from them, and we're doing the work as we go as leaders to make sure that the next one we do is even better. And I hope that all of my comments were appropriate. Thank you.
There's some excellent topics there. Thank you. Ms. Smithers, you wanted to comment?
Yeah, thank you. There were a lot of excellent topics there and a lot of detail, and I'm not sure that the ITP would get into each of those items, but that's okay. Because one of the things, even when we did an initial staff workshop, we were kind of diverging, because it's a big topic, right? And there's a lot of shiny objects in there that it's easy to start chasing after. And we kind of started to develop a bike parking lot, I was calling it, of kind of what goes where, right? So some of those items might show up they might be more suitable to the engineering, design, and construction guidelines than an ITP, but we can certainly capture them and reflect them. The other thing I was going to say with regard to cost of infrastructure related to traffic calming, I believe at a general level, we could go away and talk about how to address that, but it's within the context of cost of providing a transportation network. So for example, if an alternative to looking at the traffic calming related to mode shift was build additional lanes of roadway, that is an exponentially higher cost, right? So I think it's really, at a higher level, it's a discussion about trade-offs. So I think yes to your question, but some of that discussion in the workshop might not get to the detailed level of some of the questions that you had. Is that helpful?
And I can be I'm a bottom-up learner. I like more information at the very beginning, and then I move up, and that is an unusual situation. So I just wanted to throw out some of the things that I was already thinking about, and that really helps me, because then I can go into the workshop more refined with my thinking as well. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor Krausert, and thank you, Ms. Pendon, for your fantastic presentation here today. I think this would be part of an ITP conversation, but I'd be curious to get more information during the workshop about best practices around other communities, around vehicles yielding to buses. Right now, we've just got to please, pretty please do that. I'm wondering if that's something that other communities are mandating as you're required to yield when a bus is pulling out. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I was wondering, when we're doing the engagement processes with the public, will that just be a general call out, or will specific groups be invited to the table to speak at those things?
Yes, to both.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there will be general engagement with the community at either pop-up events around town.
Will there be
or
rock concerts?
Open houses. Sorry.
Will there be rock concerts? No,
I don't know.
I'm sorry.
We'll have to talk with the communications department. That as well as targeted interest holder engagement as well with specific groups and asking them more specific questions that might interest them.
Wonderful.
Related to the plan.
Beautiful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions? I don't see any at this time, so thank you very much. That was really informative, and I'm looking forward to being engaged in the process.
Thanks.
All right, so now we'll move to our standard standing items. I'll say a couple of things about each, since this is our first committee of the whole of this new council. So councillor updates, there are none this time because we had an election and there was a lot of things going on. We'll have them starting again for December. Just as a heads up, there is a reminder that is sent out by the municipal clerk's office as to when they are due. They're due earlier than you'd think they would be due. It's because they have to be part of the agenda package for our review process. So when it gets to committee of the whole, it's always a little bit out of sync with time. It's reporting on something that's not just happened yesterday, but maybe a few weeks and a month back, but it all catches up, okay? Each of us submits updates, mostly with respect to the committees that you've been appointed to. Now, if there is more than one of us appointed to committee, usually the practice is one member reports and the others defer to that member. For example, with Canmore Community Housing, we had a discussion about this. Councillor Murray is going to be providing the report, and he's going to be connecting with Councillor Hillstad, who used to do so. And the other members of the committee, will, in their reports, will just say, refer to Councillor Murray, right? And that's what would happen for waste management, transit, where there's Bow Valley Regional Housing, where there's multiples. We're not looking for really long minute-by-minute what happened. We're looking for enough detail that you're conveying the message to the rest of the council and to the community as to sort of what's going on. You know, so if there's too little, people go, oh, I don't really know what's happening. But if there's too much, it's like, it gets hard. And you'll learn that spot. And through the agenda review process, we'll also provide some feedback. So that's going to be happening starting December. And at this time in the meeting, what I would typically do is just open it up to see if there are any questions that anybody has about any of the other council members' reports. They want to find out more, they want clarification or whatnot. So anyway, that's what would have happened right now, but it's not today. So now we're going to move on to item F, which is administrative update. And of course, you saw that in your agenda package. And what I do, just to help help confine it and keep us moving through the document sequentially, is I'll usually just open it up and go section by section as far as A, B, C, or D. So first of all, I'll ask, does anybody have any questions with regards to the elements under the corporate strategic team section, section A? Now I will move on to section B, anything within municipal services. As you can see, some days there's not many questions. So now we'll move on, anything on corporate services, section C. Councillor Graham.
I want to go back to B, if I might, and just, and this is just a statement, but the Safe Park program with 55 people and 67 individual, I think that's a huge leap from, I forget where we were in the first one, like 5 people or something. So, and on a cost recovery basis, that was, I think that program has really come a long ways, and just wanted to thank everybody who's participated and made that one effective.
It's not a question, but a kudos. Yeah, great, thank you. Anything on section C? No, and then section D, municipal infrastructure. Any questions? Councillor Graham.
I'm sorry, you're one step ahead of me. Back to C and the general election recap. 39% voter turnout, down 1% from 40, but not as bad as some of the other communities that, say, Lethbridge, 19. Can you talk about I'm always disappointed in the people, or the lack of people that show up for our municipal elections, and I wanted any comments on how we might be able to improve that in the future. And I know that's not just an us problem.
Yeah, definitely not a simple answer either.
Yeah.
But
and not
in terms of, we're doing some election debrief with all the other Alberta municipalities as well to see how we can increase those numbers. Yeah, we thought there'd be maybe some carryover from the federal election, but voter turnout for municipalities is always a bit of a struggle. So it's in progress for our debrief with all the Alberta municipal clerks. So I'll hopefully have more of a concrete kind of plan for 2029 in the weeks and months to come, but it's in progress.
You know, I share that sentiment that it's always disappointing to see the percentages. And if there was any way we can get it up, and I think it's a bigger than a Canmore question,
Totally.
but maybe there's something we can do here to lead, if anything. But, you know, misery loves company, and it's about in the range of what Alberta was. And I noticed with the Quebec municipal elections, it was right in that 40% as well for them. So it's like, yeah, it really, I struggle when I see these numbers compared to jurisdictions in other parts of the world that would be willing to stand in line for hours to cast their vote, or that get 85% turnout. And it's just like, you know, anyway, once again, it's probably bigger than a Canmore question.
Yeah.
This is about how do we get Canadians involved more.
It is what it is, but it disappoints me.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, completely understandable. Okay. Councillor Faubert, did you have a question?
I was just going to mention that in 4 years, our population number has gone up. So the total percentage count is not as comparable to the last time as, right? So 39% versus 40% is a total voter count differential as well. So I feel like we saw more people vote, even though it was a small 1% increase in the overall population of voters. And then we also have a very high temporary foreign worker and permanent resident population, shadow population, people who may not necessarily have the ID or papers needed to identify themselves as a person who lives in a residence to vote, i.e. voter identification, and then anyone under the age of 18. And so I think reasonably we're working with around about 20% who don't. And so I feel like we're doing pretty good. We have a really engaged community, and I thought we would see a decrease because of the lack of ability of people to have signage out. But then people had signage on the private property next to the places where they would have it on the public property. So it still got the word out that there was an election.
Yeah, and you raise a good point. And we'll have to do a bigger debrief about that sometime, but the signage didn't seem to make a difference in the voter turnout. And the percentage, more voters, but really it's percentage we should look at. You raise an interesting point, though, about permanent residents. My thought is that gets taken into account in determining the eligible voters, but Mr. Stiver, does our eligible voter number that we take the percentage of, does that take into account permanent residents?
No, it does not. So that's the point I wanted to clarify. So that 39% is only for eligible electors. So it doesn't take into account those under 18, those permanent residents, that shadow population. That is just 39% of all the
So
eligible.
it does take that into account. It doesn't count them.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So the eligible voters, the 39% of those who actually could vote.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. Yeah.
That information I just learned.
Great. Thank you. And look, great discussion. Thank you for that. Any other questions? I know we went back to see. Any other questions on the administrative updates whatsoever? It's okay if you jump around. I just try to move it through section by section. But if there's anything else? Okay, seeing none. We also always provide a council resolution action list. You'll see that this is where it captures all of our resolutions that are still active and have not been satisfied yet. Ideally, you want this list to get smaller so there's not a lot of things hanging on, and it has been. So there's still some things that are from a while back, but for very good reason. But that's where you'll see resolutions that are still active, and then they'll appear one last time when they're done, and then they'll fall off the list once it says that they're completed. Councillor Graham.
This is just another thank you. The council resolution action list is out of font that people with seeing issues can see. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, and then we always include some correspondence there. Okay, well, we've gone right through our agenda. Couple couple of things I just wanted, or one thing I just wanted to say it is purely logistical with the mics. I'm giving in. Because of this system, it's actually easy for you to turn it off. So if you want to turn off your own mic, go ahead. And if I still see it lit, I will turn you off permanently. No. Anyway, so just let you know, I'm going to actually change things on my end and wait in case you accidentally turn it off. So go ahead and do that if you have the desire. You can do whatever you want to do, and I will play cleanup. So you do what you do, and I'll play cleanup. All right. With that, then, I will move that we adjourn the meeting. All those in favor? Carried.